What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 401 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk podcast, Hot Tags of the Week, where we will be breaking down some of the current events, the rumors, the news, the gossip, and everything else that went down in the world of professional wrestling over the past few days that we feel like talking about. And we are your hosts, as always, Tony Mango, and with me, Robert DeFelice.
How you doing tonight, Tony?
Doing all right. How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Let's get into these hot tags.
Feeling like I got a lot of bass in my voice tonight. Is that just
All
like the way that I normally sound?
I think so. Maybe you're a little on the lower pitch. Maybe you're a little tired.
Well, I think that we should talk about some other topics. What if I just like had the time to edit myself and give myself like a lower pitch or something?
It makes for a weird series of podcasts.
Just go into Barry White mode or something like that. Maybe in the future. Who knows?
This show is now called The Lowdown with Tony Mango.
You're looking at the real deal now. We have so many things to talk about here, and let's talk about something that we were supposed to talk about last week that I forgot to add into the hot tags, which was this report that since then there hasn't been any more news about, but hey, it's worth talking about just for the hell of it, that they might be doing an NXT Canada, and that they might be partnering up in some fashion at the very least with the Battle Arts Academy that Santino Marella owns. Why?
I think this is just becoming a joke of a rumor where it's like, they're going to do NXT, insert country here, you know? Because what do you get out of doing an NXT Canada? Now, it's one thing to say, we're going to make the Battle Arts Academy an official subsection of the WWE Performance Center.
Yeah, maybe
and you can be a part of that family.
Like show stuff on the WWE Network, or yeah.
NXT Canada? I mean, does that make the North American Championship the most prestigious championship?
That's the tough thing about that, because I can understand if they were setting a precedent for... God, I know a lot of people are like, oh, there should be an NXT Mexico. Really? I don't know. Now, I can make a little bit more of an argument, I think, for NXT Mexico than NXT Canada, because Canada is kind of closer to WWE, sort of, like, it's hard to say, because it's like, obviously, one's above and one's lower when it comes to the United States.
It's definitely a different country, but let's be honest, if you were told today that Canada was now property of the U.S., kind of like Puerto Rico is, would you really think anything different? Like, if you crossed the border right now, would you be like, this is a drastic culture shock?
Right. It seems like there's more of a connection between Canada and the United States than Mexico and the United States. And I think that basically everybody's in agreement here. NXT UK is not NXT UK, it's NXT Europe. You got German people, Australian people, which Australia is not in Europe, but I mean, you know, fucking might as well be. They've got people from France, people from Germany, all the other kind of stuff like that. So that is essentially NXT Europe. And that makes me think, well, then by that rationale, they would do NXT Africa, NXT Asia, and NXT South America, but not an NXT Canada. Like, the people from Canada tend to just move to Florida.
Yeah, I think if you're trying to do a continental-based system, it's not working. I definitely think there's some sort of precedent that they could work with the Battle Arts Academy, but I don't know if they'll do a whole division about it.
Yeah, I don't know. I can't picture it happening, but it's kind of interesting at the very least that it might be a possibility. So yeah. I guess stay tuned for that. Maybe in the future that ends up happening, because we've heard a lot of rumors about a lot of different things, and some of them have turned out to be true and some of them haven't. So that could be a plan that they want to do, and they might not get around to it for 5-10 years, or they might not ever want to do it. It might be total bullshit. Who knows?
While we're talking about WWE and NXT being interested in different regions, how do you feel about the rumors that, first of all, this is from last week, I don't think we got to it, Triple H has been talking with Japanese promotions, including Stardom and Dragon Gate, and how do you feel about the idea that NXT is potentially interested in New Japan superstar Sonata. Do you know Sonata?
He's the one that teams up with Evil.
Yes,
I know that,
that's correct.
but I couldn't tell you which one's which.
Okay, Sonata is probably going to be the bigger star of the two. Sonata just beat Okada in this G1 Climax tournament, the only person so far to do so. He also had a brief run in TNA.
So Sonata beat him off in the climax? Really?
Jesus.
I had to. Go on.
Well, no, that's not how that happened. But Sonata did take him to the limit. I think he could only last about 15 more seconds and the whole thing would have been done.
Well, once you hit that G1 spot, I mean.
But Sonata is believed by many to be a possible ace for New Japan. So if he were to jump to WWE, I don't see it happening because his TNA experience wasn't all that great. But if he were to jump, that would be a big deal for Japan. And I don't know if WWE has set this precedent, like, yes, bring all your Japanese stars here. Shinsuke's doing okay, but
he's got lots of problems with the way that he was been booked, and Asuka and
Yeah.
Kairi Sane, we're gonna get in that in a little bit.
Oh yeah, save that for a minute.
Hideo Watami,
Hideo.
Kushida right now is not
isn't
doing
really-
like too much, but he's not doing bad. It's just they're giving him a slow push instead of that like right out of the gate type of thing.
Yeah, so I'm not all that excited about that. Now, an NXT Japan is something I can get behind. An NXT working with companies like Stardom or Sendai Pro that Sasha Banks was just training at. That I can see being a very cool thing. And Dragon Gate is interesting because that's where Neville is. But maybe that's also why Neville will be heading out of there into the AEW fold.
Would you rather them do NXT Japan or NXT Asia?
Japan. I don't care. Okay, how do I say this? The Chinese scene hasn't made me go, oh wow, I need to watch more of this. So I'd rather they specifically call it NXT Japan because people know Japanese pro wrestling is serious business.
Because it bugs me when it's NXT UK and it's like, here's this dude from Russia. You're like, that's not the UK.
Well, speaking of NXT UK, that's had some big ramifications, including the shutting down of Defiant Pro Wrestling, which was initially dubbed What Culture Pro Wrestling.
I have not seen a single show of What Culture Pro Wrestling or Defiant Wrestling.
Well, now I'm mad at you, Tony, because every Sunday on eWrestling News, I post Defiant Loaded, and you're just not looking at my posts. So now I'm mad at you.
Yeah, I'm not watching them.
Listen, Defiant was a great promotion. It had Pac, it had Joe Hendry, local hero. It had Cody Rhodes was there. I think
Some
Kurt
guy's
Angle
name.
had one.
Wait. Some guy's name is Local Hero.
No, Joe Hendry. He does a thing where he says his name very like announcer like Joe Hendry, and the crowd chants back Local Hero. So that's just his bit. There's the Coffee Brothers. They're killing it in NXT UK. Kurt Angle did some stuff there. Cody Rhodes did some stuff there. Yeah, there was the whole controversial stuff with What Culture, so they had to rebrand. But I think it's a shame that it had to shut down as a whole. For a while, they had Wade Barrett as their GM.
Yeah, and big fan of Bad News Barrett. Still hoping somehow down the line that he will get involved in NXT UK, but I wouldn't hold my breath too much on that.
Can he still wrestle, and he's choosing not to, or can he not wrestle?
As far as I know, there's nothing that's been like some kind of career injury or something like that. I think he just didn't want to do that. I think he wanted to go into acting instead, which I don't remember seeing him.
He's got a good acting look. Like, tell me he wouldn't make a debonair brute of a Bond villain.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Yeah, I hate that they're closing down. I think it sucks. I think they tried really hard, but with the YouTube demonetization and
that's the big
NXT
killer.
UK,
like that YouTube thing has screwed so many people in so many ways. I mean, my revenue, and I'm not anywhere near the type of thing when it comes to them. Mine crapped out when that whole thing happened. So for people that's their whole bread and butter is like that's their platform, then yeah, I mean, I don't know how they stayed in business as well as they did. Now we got AEW, now we got all this attention to all these other things and stuff, and this is maybe the first of this kind of forced merger type thing.
Yeah, there's a lot of people being like, well, this is the beginning of NXT UK taking apart the UK indie scene.
Which it did take a while. NXT UK has been out there long enough now that it took longer than I thought that it would when it comes to something like that. But it's kind of funny that, like, it's like Defiant, like, they didn't seem to have the same kind of presence as even like an MLW, yet at the same time, I was fully aware that the promotion existed, and they were something that I was like, oh, it's kind of neat. Like, you know, I would have rather seen something like that live on than just a couple little local things that are just there for, you know, carnival act kind of a thing. But hey, if you got your people aren't making the right amount of money and all your stars are leaving and all that, it makes perfect sense. You got to close the doors at some point. That sucks.
Yeah, it's just unfortunate, really. I think as it's a prosperous time in wrestling, and that also means that some places are going to get swallowed up. And unfortunately, Defiant was the casualty.
You know what, though? It could be something that works better in the long run. That could be something that frees up people if they have any kind of contracts, but I doubt that they really were under, like, contracts. But if they were, then maybe they're able to go to an AEW, or they're able to go to Ring of Honor, or, you know, New Japan, or whatever you want to go, or NXT UK. And maybe some of the people that have been working on the other aspects of that aren't like the performers, maybe they can too. Maybe there's some people that are working as backstage producers for that, or some of the video crew people, and maybe they can get some jobs. So that'd be kind of neat.
Yeah, and a company like Defiant, even though they weren't with the WWE fold per se, like, you know how WWE touts their relationship with Progress and stuff like that, they still felt the benefits and the effects of WWE's recent expansion. And I think a lot of people will find homes. You know, Mark Haskins has been doing stuff with Ring of Honor. Joe Hendry was in Impact for a while. You know, there's David Starr. There's a lot of people who were already in other places. This is just one less place for them to work, which is always unfortunate. You don't want to see people lose work of any kind. But at the same time, in the wrestling business, we see a lot of places overstay their welcome, so maybe they're being
DNA.
smart. Yeah.
Had a little lump in my throat there. Get that out.
Mm.
If you were WWE, would you actually try to outright buy their tapes? Well, tapes. Anybody have tapes anymore? You know, their content library. Would you do that?
Why
I
the
would.
fuck not? Why the fuck not? I think I'm mad that WWE hasn't purchased the company that you just mentioned, library.
Yeah, they really should. I don't know why they haven't either, but that's a whole other discussion. But if I were them, I'd be like, look, if you already closed, like, let's offer you a little bit of money. And shrewd businessman, whatever you want to call it, I'd be like, all right, here's like even a pittance, if you think about it, could be worth more. If it's just like, all right, you're What Culture Pro Wrestling. You're not this giant juggernaut of a company that we're buying like WCW was. So we're not going to give you $50 million for your stuff because it's not worth it. But if we can give you, I don't know, $100,000 or something like that, or $50,000 even. I don't know how those things work. I've never negotiated that kind of a contract, but like, that might be something where the people that are involved are like, you know what? Yeah, let's just do that, because we're not going to be selling a bunch of DVDs off of this stuff for years to come, and, you know. But then you might want to hold off a little bit too, and you might want it to be like, okay, well, maybe some other people start to bid, and I don't know. Something to think about. We might see Defiant Wrestling and What Culture Pro Wrestling on the WWE Network at some point coming up
At the
soon.
very least, some of the Kurt Angle matches, you know?
Yeah, all that kind of random stuff. Anybody who's popped up in NXT UK, they want to show back like the history of their career and do those little clip segments and stuff. You got some clips there. If you own it, you don't have to worry about the copyright stuff anymore. Yeah, something to think about. Show wise, let's talk about this idea. The Big show. That was announced this past week. It's going to be a Netflix show where this is the breakdown of it. It's going to be 10 episodes, which that's kind of Netflix standard. It's described as when the teenage daughter of Big Show, a retired world-famous WWE superstar, comes to live with him, his wife, and 2 other daughters, he quickly becomes outnumbered and outsmarted. Despite being 7 foot tall and weighing 400 pounds, he is no longer the center of attention.
So, I wonder if this almost actually happened to the Big Show. Like, this is such a very specific idea, and it's Big Show playing Big Show, and I'm not really fans of shows that do that.
It can work sometimes, but it very rarely does. For all the comedians that have had shows that have been like, hey, Seinfeld was about Seinfeld being a comedian. Let's do, like, the Gary Anderson show or whatever the fuck different people's names are. And then it ends up being like, oh, okay, well, this is stupid. Like, Seinfeld. That's amazing because the show was written so well. And if you take that writing team out of there and you just say, well, that's a comedian and we're just going to follow a different comedian, you can't kind of replicate that the same. Just as the same as the first 10 seasons of The Simpsons, which are the only ones that anybody should talk about, that is just like, oh, it's a cartoon about a family. Okay, well then how many cartoons about families or TV shows about families have we had that have sucked? How many episodes of The Simpsons have sucked? Same exact show. So I look at this show and I'm just like, you know what? I have no interest in this. I can't get into the Big Show's silly side, I guess you could call it, where it's like the goofy giant. I mean, some people really like that. Some people, their favorite part of, like, oh god, what's the name of the show with I'm blanking on his name. The one who's not Chris Farley. Kevin James. King of Queens. Some people, their favorite part of King of Queens was when he was just kind of being loud and big and obnoxious. And I used to like that show, but I didn't like I've never been a big fan of slapstick stuff, and I've never been a big fan of, like, the big guys all like, well, what the hell? I'm big and I'm fucking loud and you know? So I'm hoping that it's not that type of thing. But I've never seen that movie that he was in. I never wanted to. Yeah, never wanted to see that. Did you get a chance to watch that at some point? Or?
Yeah, I watched Knucklehead a few years back. Wasn't great, but it also wasn't terrible. Big Show, this is a good role for the Big Show. I don't like the Big Show playing the Big Show who's retired from WWE, and this is his phony family because...
Does he have kids?
Yeah, I believe he's got 2 daughters.
Huh.
That's why I said I wonder if this has happened to him. I'm gonna Google that real quick just to check.
I mean, I know that, like, his wife has been on some different things, so I know that he was married, but I never really know if he had any kids. I know that, like, obviously some people, they want to keep their kids very private with that, and when Mark Henry popped up and he's got his kids and stuff, like, I had never seen those kids before and stuff. I don't remember ever seeing Big Show's kids.
It appears that he has 1 daughter.
So he was just like, let's just magnify that. Like,
her name is Sierra. She's a normal looking kid, you know. I just think it's weird. I don't know. I don't like people playing caricatures of themselves, especially with wrestling, because what's it gonna be? Oh, the daughter wants to go on a date, and the Big Show body slams her. You know, like, I just don't like those phony baloney wrestling tropes. I don't know. It's
you know
not
what?
For me.
You know what these 10 episodes are gonna be? Let's spitball this. We can think of 10 ideas. One of them is definitely my daughter brings a guy to the house, and I want to intimidate him. One of them is definitely going to be one of the little kids wants him to do something that's girly, so he's like dancing with her
ballerina.
in a
That's what I thought
tutu.
too.
Yep, in a tutu type thing. It's 100% going to be that. If they're able to swing some other guest stars, it might be like Big Show visits a bunch of people backstage, and isn't it crazy the way that things happen in WWE backstage, and has like little cameos of like Dolph Ziggler walking by or whatever. Like they might do something like that. There's gonna be him with his wife on an episode where it's like, oh, you know what? They might not do that one. I was gonna say him and his wife, where it's like something with like being on the road and all that. That's a little too serious. Where it's like, are you cheating on me? Kind of thing.
I can definitely see a lot of refrigerator jokes. Like Big Show goes for a midnight snack and he takes half the fridge. Ha 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 ha!
Right. He wants to get
Big
that
Show
last.
goes on a diet. That's an
Oh,
episode.
Big Show goes on a diet has to be one. 100%. That has to be one of them. Where they'll show him and it'll be like a bucket of KFC, because KFC loves to advertise in front of WWE stuff, and each one of the daughters and the wife will have like their chicken breasts and their thighs and whatever, and he's gonna have a plate full of broccoli or something and just be like, "Oh, Big Show's sad." This show's gonna be fucking awful. Credit to him though. Like if he's trying to do this, he's trying to act and all that. If this is what he wants to do, then that's awesome that he got his own show, It's not going to be my thing. And to be fair, haven't seen a like trailer for it or anything. It could be one of those things where I would be completely shocked. But how cool would it be if this was one of those dark comedies where it's like kind of like that Louis show, or like I don't know, like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, where you're just kind of like, oh damn, they're gonna do that. Like I was saying that it would be too dark for them to do an episode about him potentially being on the road too much and stuff. But what if there was one where it's just like, how many ring rats have you fucked? And he's just kind of like, I lost count.
Well,
like
I think that's going to be tongue in cheek brought up, because the idea that he's got a teenage daughter that's just gonna knock on the door is interesting.
Yeah, is that going to be like the teenage daughter is like, oh, I didn't know that I had this other daughter and all that. Yeah, the cast I don't recognize anybody from the 4 people of the cast that they've said except for Allison Munn, but I don't even remember what I know her from.
She's the mom on Nikki, Ricky, Dickie, and Dawn, right?
No idea what that show is.
That's
but it says she's on it.
It's a Nickelodeon show. That's how I knew it was her. That's the only one I knew. I think maybe the oldest daughter, I might have had a clue. I have to look back at the casting.
I'm even looking up where Allison Munn's been on, and I don't even know what I would have seen her on. Because like I wouldn't know her from like some episode of Law and Order SVU. I never watched that. She had 9 episodes of That 70s Show. Maybe that's what I know her from.
Allison Munn? That 70s Show.
Oh, and an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. So I have to know her from that. Because I certainly don't know her from Untitled Family Pilot.
You mean you've never seen Untitled Family Pilot?
I did see an Untitled plot pilot before on a test audience thing one time. It was fucking awful.
So she played Kelly in an episode of It's Always Sunny. She was Caroline on That 70s Show.
Yeah, I don't remember that character though.
Yeah,
she's cute. So I recognize her face, but
yeah, this show, I think it's gonna be like a Fuller House type feel, where they're gonna definitely have some tender moments. Like the oldest is gonna be like, "Well, why weren't you around for me?" And it's okay, now we're one big happy family, because I'm the Big Show. I just see that. Or how many jokes like that are there going to be? At the end of the episode, the youngest daughter wants a hug, and he picks her up and squeezes her too hard.
There's going to be that thing where the older daughter is going to be taking the 2 other ones under her wing and trying to be all tough with them or something.
Yeah, because they're gonna be badasses now, because they have this weird...
They got a bully in school or something. And...
yeah, they got this weird rebel.
Yeah, that makes sense. I really hope it's not like Full House, where... I mean, I haven't seen so many Full House episodes when I was a kid. I haven't seen them for so long, but my memory of Full House is essentially DJ, why did you do that earlier? Well, Dad, it was because of whatever. Yeah, but don't you realize that you hurt somebody's feelings? Oh, I'm so sorry. That's okay,
Yeah.
champ. Now let's go get that apple pie. Do. Like it's just it's always like oh, well, let's go get that fucking cake that Aunt Becky made and got into college somehow. Aunt Becky, whew, man,
Yeah.
she was hot.
And both her and John Stamos held up really well.
Yeah, they did. Totally different discussion. You plan on binge watching the 10 episodes of the Big Show?
Absolutely. This seems like the right kind of bad, and I'm all for the right kind of bad.
I'm gonna at least watch one episode probably. I don't know if I at some point can watch 10 episodes of anything, even if it's half an hour long. But there might be some kind of special on Smark Out Moment where we just run down the whole thing or something. I don't know. I'll tell you what I am interested about.
You know what? Hold on. If you donate to the Patreon, a certain amount will dictate it later when the show comes out. We will do a commentary with this season of the Big Show.
All right, let's put it this way. I will set aside the time. If it's 10 half-hour episodes, they were talking 5 hours worth of stuff to watch. If you donate and we get, I don't know, say, what do you think's a solid amount? $50 over everybody?
The overall number of 200, so maybe, assuming we have like 4 loyal people, we get $50 with everybody.
If I end up with a $200 Patreon for this upcoming month, we will do a commentary track for every episode.
Absolutely.
And that will be, we'll depending on if we should watch them first and then do it, or do the commentary track while watching it live. I don't know. We'll have to see about that. So if you have any suggestions of that kind of a thing, drop them in the comments below. The Patreon is patreon.com/smarkoutmoment. And if you got $1, $5, $10, whatever it is, you want to donate towards something like that or something else, because we have different tiers for different things, that's something to be well aware of. So, yeah, and if you really want that, you can get it.
And since we're talking Netflix and WWE, we learn more about the main event film that they're building towards, which is being shot right now in Vancouver, British Columbia, which is in Canada, where it's essentially a show about a young boy who wants to grow up to be a WWE superstar.
It's a prequel. It's about Big Show.
It's not about the Big Show, but there are a lot of.
I want to be big and strong. I want to be a Big Show.
But there are a lot of big superstars being featured on this show. And when I say big, I don't mean John Cena. I mean wide. Babatunde has been cast as the lead villain in the show or the movie.
Well, he is big.
Otis is said to have a role, and Keith Lee is said to have a protagonist role that is so big that PW Insider said they wouldn't be surprised to see him get a major push around the time that the movie is said to be released. How do you feel about this?
I have not been following this main event thing, so that all comes as a shock to me, and that's kind of interesting that they would go with those people. I mean, they're not like big stars that they would go, oh, we really want to have
Otis.
Yeah, like who would have been like, we need to get that big star power, let's go with Babatunde. But if they're just looking for people that aren't too busy to do that and stuff, then that's kind of neat that they're giving those guys showcases. I'm really curious to see what Otis is like acting. He's just kind of like,
well, he's gotta be
I'm acting.
Yeah.
Yeah, Tucker, delivering lines.
Tucker,
he needs a sex scene with Mandy Rose.
I'm coming, Tucker.
I'll watch it. Why not? Let's see. I want to see Babatunde be big and other people not be big.
Yeah, which is essentially going to be the whole point of the movie. Babatunde big, spaghetti boy not big.
And if you want us to do a commentary track, to the Patreon. Glow's coming out this week, isn't it? Yeah, that's coming out Thursday or Friday.
Oh,
I'll be watching that. That's for sure.
I
It's
guess
not
it's not for me.
WWE, but it's Chavo has had some stuff to go along with that, and John Morrison's had some stuff, and good show. Big fan of that show. So you
Good
might see
show.
some kind of thing on the, I don't know, we might do something about it. Now it's this week's SummerSlam and all that, so there might be some text related thing, or we might cover that on the hot tags next week or something.
Good show, good glow. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I actually recently decided to put that up, a parody of that on the t-shirt stuff. So on TeePublic and Redbubble, if you want to buy some shirts that say blow instead of glow, because I'm lame and I like my wordplay, and that's the simplest, stupidest thing that I could think of. And I was just like, yeah, that looks kind of like the logo. Let's just go with blow. Got a couple designs on there. So TeePublic and Redbubble, if you want to buy a t-shirt or merchandise. Now they have water bottles up. Now they have shower curtains, which, look, I am interested in anybody buying any kind of merchandise from the Fanboys Anonymous side, the Smark Out Moment side, and the A Mango Tees side for any of these. Some of them are admittedly so stupid, though. And if there's anybody out there that they buy a shower curtain that says, ha 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 ha, Kennedy. I don't know what the hell's going on, but
I
thank
feel
you.
like, as far as shower curtains go, the Happy Days design is pretty good.
Yeah, happy days, you know what I mean?
You know, I'm Shawn Michaels. That's how I talk.
Yeah, I don't know. If you are the type of person who wants to buy one of those, though, head on over there and do that. It's another way to show your support for the channel, keep the lights on, do all that kind of stuff, just like the Patreon. What else we got going on here? We got some shows on the network that happened, and we watched them not that long ago before we started this. One of them being WWE The Day Of, which was the Raw reunion. And I said this to you in our chat when we were just kind of shooting the shit before this. I had more fun watching this than the episode of the Raw reunion.
Nailed it, because that's exactly the way I felt. This was a fun, 10-minute special?
10, 15 minutes, something like that. And it's basically just people hanging out backstage. But you know what? It's fun to see people genuinely happy to just bump into each other. And you can see that it's like Austin and Cena have a split second. And he says, "Oh, I'm proud of you, kid." And Cena's like, "Oh, I'm glad you got that on camera because Stone Cold just said that he's proud of me." Like, yay. Like, that's really cool. I like that stuff.
There was Stone Cold had a lot of good, hey, we're just going to film you randomly moments. Like, he's asking Joe, hey, you ever been down to the Performance Center? And he's like, yeah, I go every now and again. And he goes, how many people do they actually have there now? And he goes, like, 100? And he just goes, yeah, most people ever to have a contract at one time. You get those moments of, like, this is, pardon the pun, raw emotional stuff. Like, you see Becky Lynch just goes to Austin, are you getting the itch? And he goes, no, I'm good, but if you want to main event WrestleMania 36, I think we can pull that off. And get
she's
confirmation.
giddy like a schoolgirl.
Yeah,
she's marking out.
Why wouldn't she be?
Yeah.
There's a fun moment with Ric Flair walking towards Gorilla, and he passes by Alexa Bliss and gives her a high five. And Nikki Cross sees Ric Flair, and she just tries to woo, but she just wrestled and her voice isn't there. She's like, I'm sorry, my voice. And he just laughs and
he's like, Nikki Cross, my favorite.
Which I thought was fucking weird, but sure. Why wouldn't Ric Flair be a fan of Nikki Cross?
Charlotte's in the corner crying.
What else was there? I think there's another
I like the
moment.
one Austin and Joe moment where he says something like you got like all these eyes watching you and you can only make a first impression. Go out there, kid, or something like that. Like, I can't remember what it was, the direct quote.
Yeah, but he's like, I thought it was him trying to explain when they first met.
Yeah, that's
like, oh, are you ready to make a first impression? Good job, kid. You don't look like you're going anywhere. You got 6 minutes.
Yeah, that kind of thing was great.
What else? There was the Seth Rollins thing with DX where he's like, I feel like I played the role of Billy tonight, and it's cool that I'm still checking off bucket list items at 33. John Cena, who continues to have just like the best one-liners, is talking like off screen, and he's like, "Oh, when is Raw reunion? Oh, what do you mean it's now? Oh, that's my music. I gotta go."
It's fun, it's one
Yeah,
of those things that it's only like 10-15 minutes or something, and if you got a little bit of like time on your hands and you want to just put something on in the background and all that, I think it's definitely worth a watch.
maybe another great line was RVD pretending like, just for 5 seconds wrestling is real, and as he's running toward the ring entrance, he's like, "No, Ray, I won't let anyone hurt you."
I got your back, Ray. Yeah, I like that. I didn't as much like the table for three.
I hate Table for Three as a show. Let me get this. My personal opinion, Robert D. Felice. I would tell you to skip 90% of Table for Threes. It's such a cool concept that they never deliver on.
It used to be better. Like those first couple of episodes were pretty damn good. Like I remember having a lot of fun watching the one that it was Daniel Bryan, Ryback, and Cody Rhodes, I think.
No, it was Daniel Bryan, Ryback, and
Who was the
Dolph
third
Ziggler.
one? Ziggler, yeah. So like they were like picking on each other and everything, and like that was fun. And I feel like every episode they cut it off when things start getting to where they could get into something, and I feel like that needs to be an hour long. Because I don't know about like everybody listening and stuff, and if not, drop a comment below and tell me otherwise. But I feel like if I'm getting together with a group of my friends and we're just kind of shooting the shit and having dinner or whatever, we're not there for 20 minutes. We're there bullshitting for an hour, sometimes 3 hours or something.
I said it when they did the Edge and Christian and Hardy's one. I could watch them just do this for an hour, hour and a half, and I'll be fine with it because they're just telling stories. The best moments are when you feel the reality of it. So skip this because what was it with Nigel and two other Ring of Honor guys?
Seth and Cesaro.
Yeah, thank you. Nigel, Seth, and Cesaro. And yeah, skip it. I wasn't a fan.
I gotta say, skip it too. The best part of the whole thing was Nigel McGuinness doing some magic at the end.
I hate that he didn't get a chance to wrestle in WWE. He was so good.
It does suck that he can't even get like one match. Not even like Nigel versus Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam or something like that. Like, it's a shame.
Definitely.
So let's talk more show related stuff. This one is, I guess, you know what? This isn't quite a show, but fuck it, why not? Transition anyway. New horror film coming out called Tables.
This was amazing. Ronda Rousey loves WWE, loves pro wrestling, and I think it's that reason alone that I don't hate Ronda as much as people hate like a Brock Lesnar. Because like you can just see that she loves it. And this goofy fucking movie trailer with Devon Dudley and they're all like running away from tables, and at the end she's just got a gun and she's shooting down this CGI table. I thought it was fun.
It was so stupid, but that's the whole point of it, because it's a parody of movie trailers from horror films that you've seen 1,000 times before. And as soon as I had seen that this was a thing that was going around, and I was like, she's got a thing about tables or whatever. Well, I really hope that Devon's in this. And then when Devon popped up, I'm like, oh, okay, all right, I'm in. This was funny. And I mean, obviously, it's not a real movie. It's obviously not going to be made into some big thing.
Why not? Why can't it be put on the network for Halloween?
I tell you what, it's probably would be better than a lot of the other things they've had on the network for different things. We'll talk about Halloween or someone else though. Horror movies are not my jam, but this parody.
Have you told your
made me laugh.
girlfriend that?
Yeah, I watched Hereditary recently. She got me to watch that because she's like, I really, really love it. I've seen it a bunch of times, and I really want you to watch it with me. And she's all like, "Oh, this is so good. This is so good." And I'm just kind of like, I don't really like it.
So I love the Jigsaw movies just because I think growing up a fan of hardcore wrestling, forgive me, I enjoy gore. And I think that's why I connect with the Saw movies, but I don't like jump scare horror films.
I don't like jump scares. I don't like gore porn. And for the most part, I don't like any kind of horror films all that much. I hate tension movies. Like that Crawl movie that's out now where it's like a crocodile or whatever. Anything that's just sort of like the purpose of it is to just be like
Make you shit your
tense.
pants.
It bugs me because
Yeah.
first off, it tends to not make me actually like go along with the story. If I'm feeling tense, it's potentially rare, but I'm either bored if I'm not feeling tense, or if I am feeling tense, I went to the movies to kind of like have fun, not to feel like more stressed. Like I'm stressed as it is, like I need to figure out ways to calm the fuck down, not to get more riled up. So when I watched a movie like Gravity, for instance, Gravity's not a horror movie, but the whole time I'm sitting there going, "Oh my god, could you just like get fucking saved already? Because this is driving me crazy." Like, I'm not that whole like every movie has to end with fairy tales, people farting out rainbows type, but at the same time, give me the Silence of the Lambs more than Halloween. Halloween, the first movie's fucking boring. Ugh, that's not a good movie. But
You
like,
ever see Interstellar with McConaughey?
oh yeah,
Good
that's
film.
Chris Nolan. I think watch all of his movies. Very curious to see what Tenet is all about. But yeah, like my go-to horror films aren't really horror. They're more on like the thriller side. I like that better. Like I would much rather watch. I don't know if anybody even knows this, but there's a movie called Identity with John Cusack, John C. McGinley, Amanda Peet, a bunch of other
2003.
people. It sounds about right. That's the type of movie that I'm like, all right, that's closer on the horror side because it's like a whodunit, who's the killer type. I'd much rather watch that, and I would watch Tables though.
Yeah, I would also watch
It's
Tables. I think
goofy.
Tables should be made into a short film.
I think if you want to make the Tables cinematic universe, you need to have a ladders movie, a chairs movie, and then they all team up.
And then when you put them together and get the Tables, Ladders, and Chairs movie, oh, what a box office smash that's going to be.
That's if you're gonna beat Avengers Endgame, uh,
Uh,
Endgame was such a good movie.
it's a great movie.
One of the few movies that's made me cry. We talked about Halloween. Let's throw this one out there. Now the new rumor with the next Saudi Arabia show is that they're not only going to continue the name Crown Jewel, which will, let's talk about that first before we get to the other thing. What do you think about the idea that they're keeping that name? If that's
Oh,
true.
I think it's great because Crown Jewel was the best part of Crown Jewel.
Yeah, I like the logo. I like the name. I like the idea that I don't have to make another fucking tag on the website. I don't have to create new stuffs like that. So I like that they are potentially doing that. I think that that's a great idea. If they make every one of these just Super Showdown and then Crown Jewel, Super Showdown, Crown Jewel, totally cool with that. They don't need to make up new names. It just need to be the Greatest Royal
But
Rumble
I
and
think
whatever.
the Greatest Royal Rumble was just, it was like, hey, here's the spectacle. We're just going to call it this. Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah. I'm hoping that this is the trend. Super Showdown, Crown Jewel. But the rumor going around right now is that they've moved the November 1st show to Halloween, October 31st. So that would mean that Thursday morning / afternoon, depending on what time zone you're at, they're going to do a pay-per-view that would be 3, 4, 5 hours long, just so they can avoid not having people on SmackDown that next night. Which would mean that for the wrestlers, they would have to then
There's
fly
no
over
way. There's
again.
no way they're traveling. I think SmackDown is 100% the women's card.
I'm still hoping that they do it Friday and then they do the whole thing on the women SmackDown thing. Because let's be honest, Halloween, I know it's not a thing in Saudi Arabia, but it's a thing here. And do I personally want to be watching a pay-per-view where every 5 minutes the doorbell rings and I gotta go give
How
candy
the
to
fuck
something?
are we gonna record a podcast that day?
You gotta just hope that it happens and ends at a time that the kids aren't doing that kind of a thing, or else we're gonna be on October 31st and there's gonna be a post show, and in the middle of it you're gonna hear bing
Ding dong,
bong,
ding dong,
dog
ding dong.
barking, people going like, "Oh, what's this that you got today? It's you're dressed up like a turtle. That's great," or something like that.
You're going to hear Callum's doorbell ring, and it'll be like, we want some biscuits.
What's the name of that thing that he really likes, Ilian?
It's something biscuits, isn't it?
Something like that. I always tend to think something biscuits when it's coming. Beef
Forgive
Wellington, there
us.
you go.
Forgive us, Callum.
Yeah, you've told me like 4 times, and I can picture it, but I can't remember the name. I still want to try one though. They look pretty good. Yeah, like I hope that this is not Halloween. I have tried doing lots of different types of work during Halloween before, whether or not I'm the person who has to be handing out the candy. And I've been getting less and less kids. I don't know about you, like less and less kids seem to be trick or treating.
Yeah, for sure.
But I mean, maybe because everything's so fucking dangerous nowadays. But I don't want to have to deal with that. I don't want to be watching a pay-per-view and have to jump up and try to like, you know, hand candy to a kid. Or to even just like, I'm not the type that puts out the candy dish and just says like, please take one and I trust you, because I was the type of kid that was like, okay, so I put my pillowcase over it and dump the fucking bag. You know, that's how that happens. I hope it's November 1st.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are doing the whole thing where they're like, well, why don't they call it Halloween Havoc? Well, they can't do that in Saudi Arabia if they don't do fucking Halloween.
Listen, I just want Halloween Havoc to come back.
I still say Halloween Havoc should be, when they do this whole thing of these random house shows that they put on the network, Halloween Havoc has to be one of them. Starrcade, Halloween Havoc, Spring Stampede, Great American Bash. Any of those like around that time frame themed things definitely should. Fall Brawl, they should make that one of them. I don't know when you would do that. That would be September, right? Nah, digestives are the things that Wago had said one time, and I was like, "What's wrong with you?
Right,
You got like
okay.
Some kind of shit problem." Although digestives do look pretty good, I have to admit. Just what kind of a name is that? That's like somebody sitting there and they're going, "Well, we got these cookies. They're these chocolate cookies with this white inside. We were thinking maybe Oreos," and somebody's like, "I know, shit pies." It's just kind of. I want Oreos.
I totally get why you can't do the Halloween Havoc. I want them to at some point, and I hope they do.
They really should. But like with anything else, when it comes to the Saudi Arabia show, they've changed the rumors like 17 times. So I am not changing anything up on the website because I don't have a post up yet, because I can't put a post up for an event that they didn't officially give a name to. And once they do actually say, in whatever capacity, this is what's happening when this day is happening, all that kind of stuff, and you'll find out about it, and it'll be up on the calendar on smarkoutmoment.com. It'll be up on the sidebar when it's close enough to the event, on the homepage, all that kind of stuff. Really quickly, let me throw out a plug here for anybody that's listening on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Play, any of those kind of audio-only streams. If you have not subscribed to us on YouTube, head on over there and do that. And you don't have to be listening on all those platforms to do that either. Just go to youtube.com/smarkoutmoment, hit that subscribe button, ring that little bell for notifications, and then you'll be aware of the next episodes that we've got going your way. Whenever things get posted, you'll get that little notification.
All right, last one, and if I'm wrong, Callum, you can tell me. I think it's a British bun.
I don't remember that being the name of it either.
Sorry.
Now I'm curious. British bun. I hope I come up with like Kylie Minogue or something like that. She's still hot. I haven't seen her in anything in a long while. Well, maybe it is. It looks like that might have been the thing.
Yeah.
Easy iced British bun. Maybe.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at. Yep. All right, Callum. It's up to you to tell us. Leave a comment down below.
Donate to the page. Let's see here. We should talk about AEW. When they are going to crown their first ever women's champion has been decided. It is Britt Baker. No, I'm just kidding. It is. They are going to do that on the first television episode, which they've sold all those tickets, or they're going to release a couple more. So we know we're going to have a packed house in Washington, D.C., and they haven't said, as far as I'm aware, how they are going to crown the champion. But maybe there's going to be...
because they're going to reveal the title at All Out, and they'll tell us.
Yeah, I'm assuming that they'll probably have like a mini tournament. Just like maybe a 4-match type of tournament type thing. Well, you can't do a 4-match. It would be 5-match, right?
Do a ladder match. I'm trying to get the ladder match concept back into championship matches that matter, because I miss just, hey, we have a belt that's vacant. Put it up top and do a ladder match.
Who do you think that they'll have fight for this? Depending on the scenario, because if they have a fatal 4-way, it's only 4. If they have a tournament, it could be 15 people, 16 people.
Britt Baker's going to win that title, in my opinion. As long as she's healthy, she's winning that title.
I'm less and less thinking that.
I'm worried about Brandy Rhodes.
I don't think it's going to be Brandy. I don't think it's going to be Awesome Kong or Asha Kong. I don't think that it really can be somebody like Riho, who, as far as I know, that she's not signed. So it's tough to say, but I could see it being Allie.
No. I'm sorry, no. It won't be Allie. It'll be Britt Baker as long as she's healthy. And do it in a ladder match, fuck it. Give him the belt.
I don't think it'll be Nyla Rose. There's a chance it could be Kylie Ray.
She's done most of the media.
Is Kylie Ray injured or something?
She had a minor injury. It's being played very close to the vest. And she'll be ready to go soon.
Well, why doesn't she just get rid of that vest then? Fuck.
Nah, stupid vest.
You get the wrong one, and it's not the D-Lo one.
I know. There goes your chest, man.
Well, we will find out more about that when it happens, but I like the idea that they're going to do that because it's like, it gives you something special on top of it, They can't crown the first women's champion on the first show because they already did that at Double or Nothing with the whole, let's set up the first champion at All Out. It would be weird if they crowned the first women's champion at All Out and that just kind of got swept under the rug. We know that the tag team titles are going to be eventually defended throughout a tournament and determined that way, I should say, not defended. And I'm assuming that that will probably be something that we get tag team champions sometime in 2020. Then again, we might get another show after All Out.
I think we get one in December. I think we get one.
I think like late November, early December. Something like that.
Because I think we're getting January with the Jericho Cruise. I think we're getting a live show from the Jericho Cruise. Whether that's on TV or not, I don't know. But I can see a December show because AEW would be very wise to do a December major pay-per-view because WWE in December, it's not there, man. They're not there.
They phone it out. They do Survivor Series somewhat half-assed sometimes. Like, imagine, this isn't a real full hot tag, but this just came into my mind and it reminded me. There was a story going around this past week that said that Drew McIntyre lost to Kevin Owens because they didn't want to make sure that the Raw and SmackDown setup was like too one-sided. This is the same company that had SmackDown lose every match at Survivor Series except for the one that they fucked up, and then they said, well, that doesn't count.
Because it wasn't on the actual pay-per-view. I think that story is bullshit. I don't know where you read that, but Kevin Owens lost to Drew McIntyre because Drew McIntyre is one of the many superstars right now that's in kind of an aimless direction. I don't know.
The way that WWE's been lately, it wouldn't put me in too much of a shock if you said that was actually their philosophy was, well, we need to balance out the Raw and SmackDown stuff, and it's insane if that's the truth.
That's a beautiful red and yellow horse monkey creature.
Out of context, it makes no sense. And in context, well, too bad. You're not going to know what that means, everybody.
Yeah, you're not going to know what it means.
Yeah, purple monkey dishwasher. God, Simpsons were great. Let's talk about something that really sucks. Joking around a lot on a lot of things here, but this is obviously not something to joke around about. Harley Race passed away this past week. They put a tribute of him on the episode of Monday Night Raw tonight. There's actually a rumor going around, again, take it with a grain of salt, who knows if this is going to manifest, but that he may be the next person who gets one of those memorial statues for WrestleMania Axxess next year. Which, I mean, we've talked about it in the past. There's a lot of people
He's
that
a fucking badass, man. He deserves that.
There's a lot of people that could get that next thing. And when somebody passes away and it's timely to do that kind of a thing, and they are somebody who is as revered as Harley Race, it makes perfect sense.
Let's talk about Vince McMahon paying the medical bills.
That's definitely something I wanted to get into. We don't hear a whole lot of these stories, and we hear a lot of stuff about all the negative stuff that goes on in WWE, and some of it, of course, is just people crapping on things like us, and some things are people that are disgruntled employees, or they're actually legitimate bad stuff that has happened backstage. I mean, it's not a perfect company or anything, but this is a story that I think is really great. So fill everybody in about this whole thing.
So Trevor Murdoch, former WWE Tag Team Champion, posted on Twitter that he said, "I know that these stories don't come out, but I want people to know." And he told a story about Harley Race needing to pay some medical bills in order to get from one hospital to the next because he needed to be transferred. And within one phone call to Vince, within 10 minutes, it was taken care of. And Trevor Murdoch actually said, "You gave me 2 more days with Harley, and I wanted everybody to know. Thank you, Vince."
And that's really cool. That's the type of stuff that when Bruce Pritchard talks about it on Something to Wrestle With, and he says, you don't really hear a whole lot about like the way that Vince is fair and the way that Vince is nice and all this. You hear about like the megalomaniac and, all that kind of stuff, but you don't hear about these other things that WWE didn't put up something about that on WWE.com. It wasn't the whole, let's do a charity thing and pat ourselves on the back thing. This was just him being like...
if anything should be, like, shared, it really should be that. Like, what a great gesture, you know what I mean? Vince McMahon, for everything you want to say about, oh, he hates pro wrestling, when you hear stuff like that, he's appreciative,
Yeah. Now, that's somebody who... Harley Race has had his time in WWE, but he was not one of those guys that's been around like clockwork. Shawn Michaels is one thing, or The Undertaker is another thing. Harley Race is not in that kind of boat, but he's still respected enough that happened, and that's really good. And of course, you're only hearing great stories about Harley Race. Everybody talks about how tough he was and inspirational he was to different careers, and I'm not the type of person who loves that era. So I don't have any like favorite Harley Race matches. I can't tell you the list of his 5 moves of doom. Like
knee drop, headbutt. Nothing else mattered because he did a knee drop and a headbutt.
But hey, Harley Race was also the type of person who he paved a lot of paths. He inspired a lot of people, and that is something that a lot of people are carrying on with them, and that's really cool.
His promos were great. I joked about this with you, but like those mutton chops, what a cool look that must have been for that time.
It's not something you can pull. No, you know what? I should backtrack. I was going to say, it's not something you can pull off in 2019. 2019, you can do absolutely anything, and if you just want to say, like, this is my aesthetic, then you have to just be okay with it, and there's enough hipsters and stuff. People have those mutton chops and wear like different colored t-shirts mashed all together, sewn together, and just be like, well, this is what I am. I'm some kind of weird lumberjack thing or something. But it's a look, He stood out. Like, if you do a silhouette, you're gonna know that one's Harley Race. With that hair and everything.
Badass.
So I said before, I don't have a whole lot of like Harley Race memories or anything like that, but if you do have any particular Harley Race memories that you want to share with anybody in the comments below, go ahead and do that. And you link to something cool on the WWE network, like a really good match or something, then by all means share that, because that's kind of the point of all that stuff,
Speaking of WWE network, this isn't like a thing that we had under the hot tags, but how are you feeling about the redesign a week into it?
I have not been able to test the casting thing yet again, but I'm finding some things bothersome. I really don't like this more than anything. I don't like how you can't search on WWE.com anymore. That is really bothersome, because now they don't even have that thing on the side anymore where you can go to photos, videos, that kind of thing. Now you just have to go to WWE.com/photos. You have to actually type that out to get to that spot. I haven't been able to find that stuff elsewhere. And I don't like how if I'm doing a search for TakeOver Toronto, that I get a list of a bunch of videos. I want the breakdown of all the things like I did before, you know? So I'm not liking that. I haven't really cycled through the network to try to find certain things and to see if there's any kind of like issues with the search function. The playback from what I have seen though has been okay. I still don't like though how it doesn't automatically play anything. When I load the network, I got to do the whole like click on the watch now button. And I don't like that.
Yeah, I also don't like. I don't know anymore if I watch SummerSlam 92, if SummerSlam 93 will just play right after. Because of the way it's structured.
Yeah, I don't know. And I don't like the schedule. Now you can't click on things in advance to try to see, like, I didn't know who was on the table for 3 until it started.
I don't like that they called it a
annoying.
Table of Honor. I know we covered that already, but that's just a very cheesy name.
Oh, it's better than Ring for 3.
Also at the network, I mentioned this to you. I watched it on the PS4. You said you didn't see a difference. The video quality is like legit full HD now. Because I've been watching NXT and it looks crystal clear.
Do you have a 1080 TV or a 4K?
I have I'm not even sure if it's 1080 because I got a freaking hand-me-down TV, so I don't know how far it goes. It might be 1080i. I know it's not the full 1080p.
So I have a 1080p. I almost bought a 4K one the other day, but I decided against it. It's like, I don't need to spend $250 on something I don't need. But I haven't noticed a big change, but I always thought that it looked pretty decent. So maybe that's kind of a difference maker too. Maybe yours is upscaling compared to what it was before, and that might make that much of a difference from the way you're seeing it. I would love to see what this looks like on a 4K TV, though.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm looking at a 4K TV next, and that's going to be exciting.
Undertaker is going to be pretty much locked down for life. That was the thing that came down from the rumor mill over the past couple of days, that he signed a contract that basically just keeps him in WWE forever, which I'm totally cool with.
Yeah, it's surprising because he had just started doing these signings and things, and I guess WWE was okay with it, and then AEW snuck up on everybody, and now they're not so okay with it.
Makes sense, though. It's like, you can do these rinky-dink things here. Oh, the competition? No, fuck that.
Yeah.
Let's talk really quickly about this idea. Matt Riddle's getting a lot more enemies. He's got Goldberg against him. Now Chris Jericho's against him. Booker T had said some
Matt
things.
Riddle is looking to take down WCW. I
He's
don't
got
know.
some kind of a grudge with the WCW side of things.
I don't know how this started, but I mentioned this on the WrestleZone stream. I think it works perfectly fine. Matt Riddle is just being a dick because he's getting heat by being a dick. It works. You know, not everybody has to be sunshine and lollipops and rainbows and everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together, you know? He doesn't need to do that.
You think that Matt Riddle and Chris Jericho are going to be good waffles and stick together?
I think so.
That's what good waffles do. If I were like a Matt Bloom or a Triple H or Vince McMahon for that matter, I would be like, look, shut up.
Listen,
like, this is not making you look good, you know?
You think Triple H and Shawn Michaels aren't like, yeah, go fuck with them. You can do that.
There could be like a 50-50 type of thing, because from a business standpoint, I feel like that makes him look kind of embarrassing that he's doing this, because he's kind of coming off like a dick, like you're saying. And it's like, well, do you really want to be talking about this Hall of Famer like Goldberg and really be crapping on him that much? That's calling attention to a match that we really wanted to make a big deal out of, and now you're making us look bad because we made a big deal out of that. you're also putting down somebody who we're going to have for for SummerSlam. When it comes to Jericho, I could see them being like, the positive being, yeah, crap all over that guy, he left, and the negative being, don't give them any more press, you know? But I just
Yeah.
don't see what Riddle gets out of it. He's not a heel, so it's not like he gets the heat for that. It just kind of seems like a bad road to go down.
It's weird. But, you know, they referenced it on NXT TV. Adam Cole was like, maybe you need to stop worrying about Attitude Era guys, which I laughed at.
It would be kind of funny, though, if somebody like a Triple H is backstage and Riddle's like, you see what Jericho just said? And he's like, fuck him. You know, like that kind of thing, just sort of like, and then Riddle's like, oh, okay, I'm going to type out, you know, Hunter says, fuck you, like, that kind of thing.
I think, and I brought this up too, it's like telling Shawn Michaels, hey, you're kind of a dick. We don't want you here. It doesn't work. Shawn Michaels got where he got by being a dick.
It's true. And if that's confidence versus arrogance, it might play off differently, but...
Rick Martel.
I watched, what's it called? Zach and Kurt Figure It Out. Do you watch that?
Yeah, it's fun. I like their podcast a little more because I can't believe how much money they spend on these things, but you know, more power to them.
I wish that they would have said how much that they spent on that most recent thing that they put out there. They didn't put a number, but I've watched the Figure It Out one. I've seen all those episodes, and I find those pretty interesting. And this most recent one, they did a clip of the Strike Force stuff, and I was like, I totally forgot that the Strike Force name came about the way that it did, where it was just kind of like, we're going to strike with a force. Oh, yeah, you know, that sounds like a really good idea. Strike with a force. I think we should be Strike Force. You know, we strike with a force. And it's like, oh, God, that's promo stupid. Well, we got to hear the Strike Force team. They're striking with force. They're Strike Forcers. They're force striking. And it's like, wow. Okay, slow the fuck down.
Is that not the best example of pro wrestling?
That era is fucking fun. It's so lame and so amazing. I love it. Let's talk 2K20. They put out a trailer. It leaked and then they put it out anyway. And now we know who are going to be on the cover. Instead of having one cover with this person, one cover with this other person, that kind of a thing, we've got Becky Lynch and Roman Reigns on the cover. I think it's a great idea.
It's a fantastic idea. I have been, in my own circle of friends, pitching the idea of a Sgt. Pepper style cover. I don't know if you're a Beatles fan. Actually, I think you've actually said that you're not.
Yeah, I specifically do not like the Beatles. I have one cover version of Hey Jude that is a, like, kind of jazzy lounge instrumental. That's my limit of the Beatles.
Well, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club is just, there's so many people on the cover, and I think that's what a WWE cover should look like. Because you're not just the Roman Reigns show, the Becky Lynch show, the AJ Styles show, the Seth Rollins show. This is WWE as a whole. Why isn't Charlotte and Becky and Roman and Cena and Orton and even like Hogan and Flair on the cover? Then you're like, whoa, this is a WWE game. What if somebody doesn't know who Becky Lynch is? Are they gonna pick up the game for the WWE logo itself? But what if they're like, well, I don't know these guys. You know how many people, specifically on eWrestling News, when I put up the leaked trailer, do you know how many people said, can you please leak the Legends roster? You know how many people buy the games just to play as the Legends? I understand why, you know, these covers are important to have the modern cover star, but it's also important to know that you have everybody. And this is specifically a company that says, we don't have one top star. Everybody's our top star. We're the superstars are the brand. So why is it always just one person? That being said, this year we get two, and I think I couldn't think of a more deserving two. Becky Lynch, this is her year. You're going to look at 2018, 2019, and you're going to be like, that was Becky Lynch. And Roman Reigns should have been on a cover years ago, and I don't know why he wasn't. Nope, never has been.
He was never on a cover? That seems
He was
Crazy.
never on a cover. You would
So
think
I kind of agree with you, and I kind of disagree a little bit. I think that there should be 2 covers. I think that there should be one that has, I'm thinking maybe 6 is the maximum that you can put on there without it being too clustered, of the main roster, and then 6 legends, and have that be like the alt cover.
See, we do get a bit of an alt cover because the collector's edition is based on the 20th anniversary of SmackDown. So you have like a box art of just a lot of great SmackDown moments and SmackDown superstars. But I don't know. I feel like the box art is very lazy. It's just like you and I do this all the time in Photoshop. It's here's a background with some smoke and some particles, and here's an HDR photo of Becky Lynch, and all right, that's it. We got our cover.
Yeah.
I would like to see more creativity there. Outside of all of that, they also announced, like I said, the collector's edition, 20th anniversary of SmackDown. You have your choice of getting, I'm sorry, you don't have a choice, but it comes with an acrylic piece with an autograph signing of either Edge, Kurt Angle, and Rey Mysterio. I wish you could choose whose autograph you'd like.
Who would you pick?
Edge. I would throw out every other version until I got Edge. I like Ray, I like Kurt, but if I'm going to buy a physical copy of something, I'm getting my favorite, or the Edge. You get the acrylic piece of the ring skirt, which can be SmackDown from 2002 to 2008. You get The Rock as a playable character with a $500 shirt. You get Mankind with a Rock and Sock Connection jacket. You get Hulk Hogan in his 2002 Hulk Still Rules attire. And you get Chyna, who is like easily the coolest addition so far to the game, because she has been in the game since WWF SmackDown Know Your Role, which was released on the PlayStation in November of 2000. So it's been a while.
If you were to do what I was saying about a minute ago, if you were to do 6 people on the main roster, 6 people in a Legends thing, to 2 variant covers, who would you pick for what? This is kind of on the spur of the moment. So
the 6 people I'd pick for the main roster are Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, and Ronda Rousey, Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, AJ Styles.
That's most of what I'd go with that. I don't know if I would go with AJ, but I probably would lean more towards that.
Seth, but then I was like, no, I want to get a little SmackDown love in here.
I was thinking maybe I'd put Kofi this year instead of AJ.
Actually, Kofi was the person I had in mind. If anybody else could get the cover alongside Becky, it would have been Kofi for what they did this year. They could have both broken the glass ceiling in the trailer, and I think it would have worked.
Yeah, I kind of think that maybe that would be the 6, because it makes sense. Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky, they were the main event of WrestleMania. They're the top 3 women that they've had in this whole capacity. The only other person really is Alexa, but you know, when you compare her to like Ronda, come on.
I'm surprised Ronda. Like I'll admit, I watched the trailer, and my mind immediately said they made that trailer a long time ago in their heads, and that was Ronda. That was not supposed to be Becky Lynch, but Becky Lynch got too popular. Because that would have been so badass, Ronda Rousey just smashing through a ceiling.
But now if you went with the 6 Legends cover, who would you go with for that?
Undertaker, DX, Hulk Hogan. Shit, this is hard.
Because you already got 2 more spots left, and that's it.
Yeah, because I immediately said, okay, Trish Stratus needs to be on this cover. Because you can't not have a woman on the cover.
Well, right? Chyna, I think, goes on the cover. Because this is the first time that she's going to be a part of that.
That's true. All right, so we have Chyna with DX. So let's get like a 97 picture DX, where it's Chyna, Hunter, and Shawn. Then you have Stone Cold, The Undertaker, and
that's tough because you get Cena, you got
Hogan, The Rock, Hogan,
you got The
Cena,
Rock,
Ric Flair, yeah, well,
Andre the Giant.
All right, I'm gonna go with The Rock.
Yeah, that's a tough one.
That's
I don't think I'd go with the
Jesus,
DX
that's
thing.
hard. I think they should be on the cover. But I'm such a mark for them. I don't know. Like maybe I'm clouding my judgment. Maybe it should be like Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Austin, Rock, China, and Flair.
I was thinking Austin, China, Cena, either Triple H or Michaels, Hogan, and Undertaker.
Um, Jeez, that's
But
hard.
that gets The Rock out of there. So then that's like you'd have to put The Rock in instead of Michaels probably or something. I don't know. That's tough.
See, you put Michaels in because you're a mark for him, and like when you say greatest legend, you go, "Oh, Shawn Michaels."
Yeah, I'd probably have to boot Michaels and put The Rock in there because The Rock makes more sense. That's so tough though. And the way that I am, I would be like, hey, can we get the marketing team to make like 3 covers and we can have like the inside
Be
what do they call those
reversible.
things now? Like the little manuals? They aren't manuals anymore the way they used to be.
They're
It's
just
just showing
inserts. Yeah.
just a little insert card. I'd be like, all right, well the insert card has to be 6 different people just so we can get them in there and be like, you know.
But then, like you talk about the main roster, I left off Kofi. I think Kevin Owens should be on a cover one day. I think Kevin Owens is great. I left off Drew McIntyre, and I probably would have loved to have put Drew McIntyre on a modern day cover. Bailey deserves to be on a cover. That's another thing, by the way. We'll get to the showcase mode in a minute. It's about the 4 horsewomen, but there's so many major stars, and that's why, again, Sergeant Pepper style cover.
Do you want a yellow submarine on there?
I do. I want a yellow submarine. I want it with a giant N.
So we got Kofi and Roman and Brock, Ronda, Charlotte, and Becky, and they're all walking across the road.
Yes.
Now, I don't play these 2K games, so when they announce certain features are coming back, or they're announcing that like this kind of platform is going to do this and all that stuff, to me it makes no sense to me because I know everybody goes nuts over the GM mode, and I don't know what this universe mode is in comparison. And how you feeling about some of that stuff? Because that's mumbo jumbo to me.
So what we know now, the universe mode has the details for that haven't been leaked yet. That's usually like the last thing they do. Career mode, for the first time, you can also create a woman. And the scene that they showed is a male created superstar and a female created superstar in some kind of a boiler room. And Papa Shango shows up. So I don't know what's going on there, but I want to because holy shit, it's Papa Shango in 2019. The mixed match challenge is returning to the game because they haven't had mixed tags in the game since they left the PS3, which is great, but I hate when they take out features that didn't need to be taken out just to put them back in and go, look at us, we're being innovative. What else? This Originals idea of like, so it looks like a Mortal Kombat style WWE where what they've shown so far is you have a ring in the middle of a swamp, and you have Swamp Monster Bray Wyatt, and you have like Frankenstein's monster Braun Strowman. And you're going to get these different universes and these different worlds to play in. So I'm interested to learn more about that as time goes on. There's also going to be changes to the control scheme to make it easier for casual players to pick up, which
That's needed.
The words of that alone, it could suck, but the words of that alone says, okay, you're listening. And I appreciate that at the very least. But yeah, I'm excited. October 22nd. So a little further out from what they normally do, but I'm excited for it.
And I got one more hot tag. That is on this episode of Monday Night Raw that just passed by. We have new women's tag team champions. They did a fatal 4-way elimination match, which was rumored to be taking place at SummerSlam, and they decided to do that on Monday Night Raw. It was the Iconics against the Kabuki Warriors, the way that things have been going for the past 2 months, and Fire and Desire, and Alexa Bliss, and Nikki Cross. And as soon as I saw this announcement, I had a flood of a bunch of ideas in my mind. One of them being, oh, okay, so they decided that they don't have enough time for this on the SummerSlam card, and they said, fuck it, let's do it on Monday Night Raw. Agree to
Yep,
disagree?
I totally agree. Which is stupid because these are 8 women who absolutely could have had a spot on SummerSlam and definitely deserved it. I think you could have bumped something else or put this on the pre-show or something.
It bugs me when championships are not on the big shows, because the big shows are so long, and I get that, like, from a certain standpoint, which one's going to draw more people? Goldberg showing up and him having a match, even if it's 2 minutes long, against Dolph Ziggler, or
Spoiler.
a women's tag team title match? I'm pretty sure it's the Goldberg thing.
But
But that's only because you're in a situation where you're bringing those people back because people aren't interested in the other things. And maybe you'd be able to have people interested in these kind of things if you were interested in them. And here's my big flaw with this. WWE hears for how long was it? A year, 2 years of this rumor of the women's tag team titles,
yep.
and supposedly people backstage really fighting for it and all that. I didn't think that they should have necessarily made them until a certain point where they had brought up a bunch of women on the roster and we had more. But when they announced this and they brought the titles out, the titles look great. I love the title design. They announce it's going to be the Elimination Chamber. It's going to crown the champions. I'm like, that's pretty neat. Probably would have been better if they would have crowned them at WrestleMania, but then that's a different story. What do you do with that? And blah, blah, blah. Great looking belts. The first champions are Sasha and Bayley. That's great. They're saying that they can defend them on Raw and on SmackDown and on NXT and on NXT UK. I'm like, that's amazing because we can get to see a random appearance every once in a while where Sasha and Bayley beat like Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne, or we can see them against the Sky Pirates because they were a tag team at the time, and maybe even going up against like Ginny and Jazzy Gabert and all that. And then they do nothing with them. And they drop the titles at WrestleMania, and we hear in retrospect that they were going to do this. They were hoping, at the very least, of doing this whole thing with Saudi Arabia. Wasn't going to work out, but whatever. The Beth and Natalia stuff goes nowhere. They needed to insert Nia and Tamina for no friggin' reason, and they give the titles to the Iconics. And part of me goes, well, that's really stupid. But part of me goes, okay, well, the Iconics won something. That's good. Maybe they're going to turn them around and not be completely wasted on the main roster. Because leading up to that point, the Iconics weren't doing shit. They took about a year or whatever it was to get on one pay-per-view, and it was the one that was in Australia, so that's the only reason why they did that. But, okay, you got them as champions. Let's see what you do. Since WrestleMania, all they had done was every like 4 or 5 weeks remind people that they were supposed to go up against the Kabuki Warriors. And they set up this thing in Tokyo. That's going to be the title shot. And then they go, no, instead it's going to be, if you win, then you get a title shot. And then they don't do the title shot. And then they rush in a situation like this. And I know for a fact it has to be this scenario where they did not give a shit about these titles. They got way too focused on all this extra stuff that we have had thrown in front of us since October of last year. It's almost been a full year of throwing stuff and hoping that it sticks. Because it started essentially with Lars Sullivan. That was the first,
if you really think about it, SummerSlam of last year, things seemed coherent. Like they turned Braun as heel pretty quickly, but other than that, everything seemed good. Like they knew where they were going with certain things. And then all of a sudden Roman got leukemia and it was done.
That threw everything for a loop, and then they started to get really panicky, and they started to do things like, well, instead of Lars Sullivan coming up to the main roster, he's going to be a part of like 5 people that are going to come up to the main roster, but we don't know when that's going to happen, so we're just going to talk about that for 3 months. They started doing that stuff. They ended the general managers. Then they were going to just have the McMahons do everything. We get the World Cup tournament, but that's going to totally pay off at Survivor Series. And then Survivor Series happens, and it's, well, we fucked up that one match, but we wanted to make SmackDown look fucking awful for some reason. Because why not bury the hell out of them? But it'll pay off, guys. It'll pay off. And then it turns into this whole Miz thing, and the Miz thing doesn't pay off. And that's a whole... We talked about that. This Shane McMahon thing's been a complete bust. And they bring people up to the main roster. They bring up Johnny Gargano and Tommaso Ciampa. They bring up Ricochet. They bring up Aleister Black. They've got no idea of what to do with these guys. Two of them can't do anything anymore because the Tommaso Ciampa's injured, and let's keep Gargano down there. Let's switch titles. Let's bounce championships around from different people. The third hour of Raw is this. It's not. We're going to change this. We're not going to have that. Blah, blah, blah. Month after month after month. Clearly, they lost track of the women's tag team titles.
Right.
And it's not crazy to assume that happened from the writers, where if you have somebody like a Vince McMahon who's saying, no, we can't do that this week, we have this priority and we have to do this and we have to get this person on there, and instead of being like, let's have the actual championships defended, I just had a massive deja vu. Instead of the championships being defended and putting them on the week that we were supposed to, or if something pops up that week, let's advertise them for the next week and do some kind of a backstage segment that pushes it away or whatever. We need to have this segment, and that's going to take up 20 minutes, and that's going to whatever. They do this kind of stuff week to week to week. The next thing you know, a month has gone by. And then the next thing you know, 2 months have gone by. And then the next thing you know, an entire title reign has been absolutely nothing. So the Kabuki Warriors probably were never necessarily planned to be the champions, not because they were like anti-Asuka and Kairi Sane, just because they never bothered to have a plan. If this is the writers themselves losing track, that's crazy because it's not hard to keep track of this stuff. But if you have somebody who keeps changing the scripts on you and stuff, then it's like, well, you can only do what he wants you to do, and what are you going to do? You know what I mean? Why not do these kind of things on house shows?
Do you buy the Bella Twins story?
Yeah.
That they had so much planned for the Bella Twins, but then they found out that Nikki just had a cyst on her brain and couldn't wrestle. So what? The entire women's tag team division was thrown in the toilet?
I think they had one match planned, and that was it.
But you know what I mean? If
it's
you're
stupid
gonna fucking do the Kabuki Warriors and build this shit, and you bring Paige back to do this, you can't sit there and tell me, oh, well, we didn't have any idea of where we were going. Other things took precedent. Because you know what that says? That says that every female fan who has complained since WrestleMania that they don't really care about the women is right. If you're going to sit there and go, well, other things took precedent. Why? The women's tag team titles were created, and they should be treated on equal footing. Now, you could argue that they absolutely are, because Vince doesn't care about men's tag teams.
Yeah, the Raw and SmackDown tag titles keep getting pushed aside, too. That's the thing.
But at least they're there. The Iconics did nothing except a very iconic, hey, Kayla! That was the highlight of their run.
And it is, you can look at the parallels between the Raw and the SmackDown tag titles, because look at what happened with the Raw side. The Viking Raiders, they get brought up to the main roster as NXT Tag Team Champions with the idea of just, fuck it, have them drop the titles. They dropped the titles, and what have they done since then? They've beaten jobbers. So why are they on the main roster? Why couldn't they have just stuck around? Why did we go from the Revival, get those titles, they drop them to Hawkins and Ryder, they drop them back to the Revival, now we've got them on the OC. And the OC, the reason why the OC has these titles is because they are the current pet project. And that's why Alexa Bliss...
5-year contract.
Yeah.
And it's looking more and more like maybe the Revival aren't sticking around.
Yeah, now I'm starting to think that is just kind of a ticking time bomb, and they're just going to job them out for the next couple of months.
And again,
next
we
year
don't know. Excuse me. We don't know all that well what they're doing, but we know that the Revival have a Pro Wrestling Tees store, under the FTR name because they own that hashtag. They own the hashtag. They own that trademark, or at least Dash Wilder does. And I don't know. The OC seems to be dedicated to sticking with them, which annoys me because, like I told you during Raw, I hate when jobber acts, and not saying Carl Anderson and Luke Gallows are jobbers, but they were treated like them. I hate when jobber acts just start getting wins all of a sudden, and you know it's because, well, they agreed to be with the company for a longer period of time, so now they're winners again.
Remember when Sin Cara signed his last contract and they had him fighting for the United States Championship for 3 weeks?
Yep.
That was so transparent.
Exactly.
It's like, we're going to give you a little bit of a push. Well, you know what? Now that you signed that contract, well, we're not going to do that this week, but we'll get around to it 2 years later or something.
And it's a damn shame. And you want to believe, like, it can work out. Look at Kofi. Kofi's the best example of, hey, man, keep your chin up. It can work out.
Mm-hmm. Be talented enough that at some point they have to just go along with it.
Be so good they can't ignore you. And I think, while it works out for Kofi, you look at an act like Bray Wyatt and you've said ad nauseum that you think that character is stale. You look at Sasha Banks and she has completely walked away for the time being because she feels unappreciated, at least according to rumors. So, I don't know. It's hit or miss. But the point
with this
is,
situation, what they did was they gave the titles to Bliss and Cross. And I can pat them on the back and at the same time smack them in the head about this. Because if you want to pat them on the back, the glass half full of this optimistic point of view, well, they clearly weren't doing anything with Banks and Bayley. They clearly weren't doing anything with the Iconics. If they really would have cared about the Kabuki Warriors, they would have had them win those titles. They could have done it on any episode of SmackDown, any house show, that Tokyo show, any pay-per-view. They could have put that at the pre-show Extreme Rules. They could have put that at the pre-show at Stomping Grounds. They could have done it. There's no excuse. They could have had them wrestle on any of these loops of house shows and said, oh, look at that, we had an impromptu title win. You should go and check out these house shows that we keep canceling at the last minute and stuff. They could have done it, but they didn't want to because either they thought, well, we need to drag this out because of something, and then they decided, well, we're dragging it out for no reason, but people will forgive us. That type of like philosophy that they have sometimes in WWE where they say, we'll figure it out, and then they never figure it out, and then they go, enough time's passed that nobody will care. They do that all the time, and that's the complete opposite of what I am as an organizational person. I have notes from articles that I didn't write from 4 years ago that I don't get rid of because I'm like, well, if I go back to that article, I already wrote up a bunch of notes. Like, that's the way that I am. I plan shit.
He has a to-do list about adding things to the to-do list. Like,
I legitimately do.
Let's...
I have my master to-do list, and then I have this is the stuff that doesn't need to be on the to-do list, but I can add it whenever it needs to be. I have a calendar of keeping track of when things happen throughout the year on a regular basis, like the idea of keeping track of call the spot for Money in the Bank, stuff like that. And I know this shit, and it's less to keep track of, and I still do it. And that drives me crazy when they're like, we'll figure it out. Let's just do it. And then 3 months go by and they go, they haven't really done anything. Let's get new champions. Then you go, well, they haven't done anything because you didn't fucking figure it out. And if you would have figured it out and you would have planned it out ahead of time, you could have done something with it. Yet now they're in a position where the Iconics, worthless as champions. Fire and Desire, they could totally put the belts on them, but they're doing a story of whether or not they're going to fuck, so that's a whole nother thing. And, well, let's be honest, whether or not they're going to kiss, they're not going to fuck. But, hey, you want ratings. So they gave the belts to Bliss and Cross, and I feel like you can just hear the backstage thing saying, the good side of this is at least we have the champions, the belts on people that we actually want to invest time in.
Right.
Because Bliss and Cross have been on every episode of Raw and SmackDown for the most part for 2 or 3 months. And The Iconics haven't, and the Kabuki Warriors really haven't. So, if you want to look at it in the optimistic side of things, if they're putting the titles on people that they actually do want to spend time on, the belts are going to get more notice. But the only reason that they're in that scenario is because they want to do that with Bliss and Cross and not the other people. And if
let
they
me
were
take
in
over
that,
here, because I gave you my running commentary for this as we were watching, and I thought, first of all, the way they laid out the match, they got rid of the Iconics first. Smart idea, because that's who.
that's a hook.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
what people
we're
wanted.
guaranteed to get new champs. Yeah.
And I think people were done with the Iconics because they weren't doing anything. And I said, okay, Bliss and Cross need to go next. And when Fire and Desire were the next team to go, I started to worry a little bit. I like Alexa Bliss. We have covered that ad nauseum on this channel. I think they are overdoing it with Bliss. I'm very much sick, and I'll take the Callum role here of the white blonde female somehow always ends up with something to do. How is it that the only two people that can do this are Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair? Charlotte Flair can stay off of TV for months, or at least 5 weeks, lose in 30 seconds to Ember Moon, and literally go, it doesn't matter. I'm going to have a bigger match at SummerSlam. You know why? Because I'm the queen.
And then she gets it.
And then she gets it. She leapfrogs over Becky and Bayley and everybody else and gets a fucking huge match against Trish. And then
she gets the top match.
And then Alexa, who has literally, it's been a will she or won't she with her injuries, gets a fucking tag titles. For what? Just to have something on Alexa. I don't fucking get it. To the point where, when I wrote the story on eWrestling News, I wrote it out as the Kabuki Warriors won and forgot to change the last sentence until somebody on Twitter said, there's a mistake in your article. You said the Kabuki Warriors are now the third champions. How is it that Asuka, who beat Becky Lynch clean as a spring day, I know it's not a saying, but that's what we're going with.
Clean as a whistle.
Clean as a whistle, thank you. Beats Becky Lynch in January, and she hasn't fucking done anything. But Alexa Bliss, who somehow got 2 matches against Bayley, has the women's tag titles. For what? Just because you like Alexa Bliss and you want to keep doing things with Alexa Bliss. And I'm not saying it's a white blonde thing, but it sure as hell looks like it.
See, I don't read this as they gave the titles because they wanted to give something to Alexa. I read this as they got rid of those titles from people that they didn't give a shit about and gave it to people that they care about. Because we've had Bliss and Cross do this whole story with Bayley and this whole story with Becky, which it didn't really make sense that they had any kind of crossover with that, but somebody really likes the idea of Nikki Cross is being used by Alexa Bliss, which is the exact same story that we saw with Nia Jax.
But like
Mickey James won, yeah.
I'm not.
Alicia Fox has been used in that capacity.
I'm not giving them a pass here, dude. No. It's lazy. It just comes across like you don't care about anyone else. Listen, Sasha Banks is go on a self-imposed sabbatical because like you hit a point where you're just done with it. And I feel that when you see shit like this, because why? Alexa got like 5 segments at WrestleMania because they always have something for Alexa to do. Charlotte Flair had nothing going into the main event of WrestleMania. She walks in with the fucking SmackDown title because they always give her something to do. Always. It's mind-boggling, dude.
It's the type of thing, though, that they wanted to do this Bliss and Cross thing. And they were like, we're going to find time to do this, no matter what, because this is one of our pet projects. The same thing as, like, the Shane McMahon thing. So Shane McMahon has been a primary force of Raw and SmackDown almost every single episode, twice a week, multiple minute segments here and there for the better part of a year. And when they really when push comes to shove, they wanted to do this thing with Shane. It wasn't about The Miz, because The Miz got nothing out of this. It looks like it wasn't even about Roman Reigns. And right now, it's Kevin Owens. And I don't feel like this is about Kevin Owens.
I'm going to disagree with you. I think they wanted to do it. I think originally they thought, oh, it'll be a fun thing for Miz. And then Shane had a charisma that you don't see. So then it became, well, let's just keep running with Shane. And then once it got stale, they said, all right, well, Roman will crush him. And then you throw in this monkey wrench of Eric Bischoff, Paul Heyman, who must have said, yeah, but the people are sick of Roman. Let's do something with a guy like Kevin Owens. So then it becomes the Kevin Owens show. And I do think Kevin's going to beat him at SummerSlam.
Yeah, I mean, we'll obviously talk about that when we get to the SummerSlam things, but I feel like that was more so Kevin Owens has this thing going on because they wanted somebody to do this with Shane McMahon, rather than that they were like, let's do this, let's try to figure out a storyline for Kevin Owens. I know, we'll build up Shane McMahon and then we'll do that. I don't feel that. I feel this is Kevin is reaching up to Shane on their writing scale. And I feel like that's what's happening with Bliss and Cross here.
If anybody not named Brock Lesnar has storyline plans more than maybe a month or two ahead.
Probably, yeah. And that is disconcerting when it comes to something like these women's titles, because these titles were not, I guarantee you, were not put on Bliss and Cross because they go, okay, well, we want them to fight these people at Survivor Series, and we want these people in the meantime leading up to Survivor Series, and then after that, we're going to have these people at the Royal Rumble, and then we're going to do something with this, and then it's going to be Alexa Bliss versus Nikki Cross at WrestleMania. Guaranteed that's not the case. What it is somebody backstage really likes the idea of Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross as a pairing. They haven't gotten sick and tired of it like somebody like I have, because I think that you agree, and I think a lot of other people that are listening right now agree, we saw right through this from the start. It was, okay, Alexa's doing the same thing she did with the other people. Nikki Cross is going to buy into it for a while. Eventually, she's going to understand it, and then she's going to fight Alexa Bliss. And we're just waiting until that end point. Yet, somebody in WWE really, really wants to tell that story again. Probably the same person who thought that Roman Reigns should fight Brock Lesnar 18 fucking times in a row. And they are going to do that no matter what. So then somebody said, fuck it. If we do not give a shit about the Iconics, and we do not feel comfortable enough with the Kabuki Warriors to even give them a promo once in a while, or have Paige cut a promo, because that's the whole point, or put them in the tag title scene or whatever, let's just put the women's tag titles on Bliss and Cross. We can do the typical, they lose the titles, and then that's what causes the split type of thing down the line, maybe, but quote unquote, we'll figure it out, which we'll see if that happens over the next bunch of months. And then at least that way, our women's tag titles are being featured because we really want to feature these people, where that makes it even more obvious that the women's tag titles are literally a prop and not the focal point of the story. So we're going to get Bliss and Cross holding these tag titles just because they are Bliss and Cross, not because this is a story of a tag team championship run.
And I'm so over it, because you shouldn't have even created the titles.
If you had that little planned out and that little faith in it, and that you don't have, because look at what's going to happen with this. Who are Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross going to fight?
Unless they fight the Kabuki Warriors and drop it to the Kabuki Warriors, and then the Kabuki Warriors can drop it to Fire and Desire, but then we've already run through the cycle of tag teams that they have right now.
What's going to happen is we're going to get more A Moment of Bliss segments on Raw and SmackDown, where the two of them are going to sit down next to each other with their tag titles. They're going to talk on each one of those segments for at least 30 seconds about the idea of well, because we are the women's tag team champions and we're such good friends and whatever. And they're going to rag on whichever their guest is. And then we're going to get like Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss versus Carmella and Ember Moon on an episode of SmackDown or whatever.
Why you doing that to Ember Moon? Why can't she be Bailey?
She's not being Bailey.
Well, we're gonna talk about that on Thursday.
Or that ends up being somebody beats Bailey, which I think is going to be Charlotte Flair, and
stop it.
Then we get Bailey and Sasha Banks teaming up, and it's them against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross at Survivor Series. But then again, at that point, when Survivor Series comes around, they're probably going to be like, well, we don't have time on the card for that, so let's do it on the SmackDown beforehand or something. And then that's what we're going to get. And I would not be shocked at all if Bliss and Cross are still the women's tag team champions by the time WrestleMania comes around, and that they've had maybe 3 title defenses. And I don't think a single one of them is going to be on a pay-per-view.
At that point, the scenario that you just laid out, at that point, abolish the titles. There's no point.
Because that's exactly indicative of why we don't have the brand split stuff work, because they have enough titles that they don't know what to do with them. And then we might even get this answer tomorrow night on SmackDown, but we have no Raw tag team match for SummerSlam. We have no SmackDown tag team match, and we don't have an Intercontinental Championship match.
They're fighting each other.
It seems that that's going to be the case, which why would you book the Raw tag champs against the SmackDown tag champs 2 months before you're going to do the pay-per-view where Raw and SmackDown collide?
Because we're unifying the belts, Tony.
It's a good possibility. And if
as far as the IC title, you know that they're doing Ali and Nakamura on the 5 p.m. kickoff show, which with maybe a fraction of the audience in the building, and Ali won't win because they'll go, well, not in front of a fraction of the audience. I'm sorry, I'm booking SummerSlam. I
don't even think that they're going to give them a spot on the card.
Why not?
Because I think that they don't care. I think that they are so much more invested. Yeah, but they don't care. They're going to look at that and say, well, it's more important for us to do Roman Reigns versus whoever that is. And it's more important for us to do... Look, I like Aleister Black and I like Sami Zayn. But even if that match is 1.5 minutes long, I don't think that deserves to be on there. And if that is the match that they would want to do, then why isn't Aleister Black the Intercontinental Champion? That's kind of the way. And that right there justifies the Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross thing, where if you're not going to do something with somebody and you want to do something with somebody else, then you should maybe give them the championship so you can actually do something with them. Like maybe, for instance, if the Intercontinental Championship with Shinsuke Nakamura and Ali is not good enough for them to want to put that on the card, if that comes down to it, then Roman Reigns should be the Intercontinental Champion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I also feel like what's good with Nakamura that they're not doing with the women's tag title is they're giving somebody else a chance. And I would like to see somebody else get a chance. Listen, they're the ones that made up their own phony baloney rules about, oh, we're going to defend the titles across all 3 brands. You've got some great women's tag teams in NXT. You got the 4 Horsewomen. You've got Casey Catanzaro and who's she with lately? Lacey Lane?
Yeah, Lacey Lane.
You've got some tag teams in NXT. Let's call them up. Let's do Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross against the Aaliyah and Vanessa Bourne. Would it be a 5-star match? No, but at least it's something different. Let's do something different. Let's expand on this idea of the women's tag titles beyond, how well Sasha Banks and Bayley's dreamed these titles into existence, and hey, Kayla! I mean, what the fuck did they do? What have they done with these titles?
These titles have meant nothing this entire year.
You've had Vince McMahon come out as Santa Claus to announce these titles, and the best you can give me is, hey, Kayla?
Yeah. And this is, like I said, Bliss and Cross are going to hold these titles until they want to do the split. And whether they do the split closer to Survivor Series, I highly doubt it, but maybe. Or they do the split closer to WrestleMania. I don't think we're getting Bliss versus Cross at WrestleMania. I know a lot of people are going to be booking that for the next bunch of months. Because whenever we start booking things for SummerSlam and for WrestleMania, people start going overboard. And anything that's slightly a feud, everybody in the comments, they go, well, you got to do this one, you got to do that one, you got to do that one, you got to do that one. And then I go, okay, well, you've got a 27 match card. You can't do it. And then that's when we get our Fatal 4-Ways and our 6-pack challenges, and we get feuds that are thrown into the Battle Royals and stuff. And I'm just going to say it already. Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross are going to be two people in the Battle Royal at WrestleMania.
I'll go a step further. Alexa Bliss is winning that Battle Royal if she ain't got a title match.
I think that she either wins it or Nikki Cross wins it by eliminating her. And already, if that is how they go, then that goes to show how predictable certain booking philosophies are.
Write this down.
And if it isn't...
It is 2 a.m. on August 6, 2019, in case Alexa Bliss actually does win that Battle Royal.
Or Nikki Cross eliminates her, and that's how they do their split. Is, well, those two are going to be in the Battle Royal, and how are they going to not collide because they've been arguing with each other these past couple of weeks because they dropped those tag titles to somebody? That it could happen. And if not, then maybe there's going to be enough time on the card that they can throw that on to the pre-show very quickly and do some kind of thing, but I don't think that that's the case. But in any fashion, Bliss and Cross have those titles because they did not give a shit about anything else, but they really like this Bliss and Cross thing, despite having done it multiple times. And they were just like, well, we should just give them the titles then, because we're going to focus on them anyway, and we're not going to focus on the other people, so let's just merge them.
But then why do you have over 100 people contracted? And I can hear Callum saying, just to lock people up, and just because they want to monopolize. And yeah, that's probably true, but it still sucks. And I think I'm allowed to say that it sucks. You know, sometimes that's all you got to do. And I like being the optimist a lot on this podcast, but sometimes you just got to go, man, call out shit that looks like shit and smells like shit. Because not saying that the pairing of those two is what I don't like, but the idea that, no, we're going to go with Bliss. Because then I say, you can lower down your roster, and then you won't have so much wasted talent.
I guess this is a good analogy that I can say. With WWE, you have 3 hours of Raw, 2 hours of SmackDown, an hour of 205 Live, an hour of NXT UK, an hour of NXT, and all the house shows. All the network specials, all the YouTube stuff. So many hours a week that you could do things on. Yet WWE, they have this philosophy where if these are the things that we're focused on, these are the things that matter, everything else gets pushed aside. If you're not good enough to be one of those things, it's on you. Sorry, Mojo Rawley. Sorry, Eric Young. Sorry, Sanity. Sorry, the Authors of Pain. Sorry, every single thing that gets under the sun. If we do not want to focus on you, oh well, you've got Main Event. That kind of thing. So that's why, like, Main Event has had Dana Brooke and Sarah Logan against each other for like 100 weeks in a row because they don't care. I mean, we've said this a million times. They don't care about Main Event because they don't even put it up on the website. That they literally do not want you to know that this show exists. And somebody like a Dana Brooke, that's their only outlet. And the only reason that they're getting that is because they've got some kind of a contract with Hulu, and that's whatever. But if WWE actually cared about that extra hour, that hour would not be EC3 versus so-and-so. That hour would be, well, let's do another segment with the Roman Reigns thing. Let's do another segment with Becky and Natalya having another promo. Because they would rather have 3 promos, 1 recap, 2 recaps, whatever, of the same 5 things spread out, repeat throughout the week, than to have like, okay, well, one of our storylines is this idea of Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon. Let's do that on one segment on SmackDown. Let's give that 15 minutes. Not do any recaps on Raw, not do any recaps later on SmackDown, not tie this into anything else. Give it 15 minutes. They would rather be like, no, let's do the 45 minutes on that one, because we'll have a 15-minute promo, and then we'll have Kevin Owens wrestle a match, and then we'll have a beatdown segment, and then we'll have a Fallout video, and then we'll have... They would rather do that. And I am more of the philosophy of, I want to spread things out a little bit, because if I had the time to add... We usually do basically 2 recordings a week on SmackDown. We have our hot tags, and we have whatever our main event is. Do you think if I had the time to do 4 extra recordings this week, we would do 2 or 3 or 4 more SummerSlam predictions? Hell no.
No.
We would do SummerSlam predictions, and then we would do some other shit. Because it's like, well, if people want to watch the SummerSlam predictions, they'll click on that video, and we'll talk about everything on that. And then if somebody isn't interested in that, we'll do a Belt or Bury, or we'll do a fan announce table, or whatever. And that also drives me nuts when it comes to writing articles and stuff, because at a certain point, when you have like the Brock Lesnar's out there, how many times can you write the same article of, well, when is Seth Rollins going to beat Brock Lesnar? He's not. The end. Wrote it 400 times. It's not happening. Over. And that drives me nuts with this WWE stuff. So it's like, the Bliss and Cross stuff, we've spent 2 months with them, 3 months, whatever. They fucking love it. I think it was really, really interesting when they did the idea of, what if Bayley was actually the bully? And then they dropped that after 1 week. And then it just became the same story we've seen a million times. So now it's been the same story we've seen a million times, 2 or 3 times a week, every week for months. They love it enough that they said, well, let's put the tag titles on them, because we're not going to give the tag titles any kind of meaning other than that. And now we're going to get the same exact thing that we've gotten, except for maybe Cross and Bliss will wrestle once in a while. That's it.
I don't know. I hate it.
And it's all going to lead to just, they split. That's it. That's the big thing. You already know what the payoff is. This is as easy to predict this is easier to predict than when we had Thanos pop up at the end of the Avengers. And when Thanos popped up, anybody who's not a Marvel fan, this is a little bit of information or whatever. I'm sitting there in the crowd. We're watching the Avengers. Thanos pops up. Bunch of people that know who he is, like myself, went, oh shit. Oh my god, that's Thanos. I know where this is going. In 5 years or whatever, we're going to get the Infinity Gauntlet. And it's going to be this whole thing about the Infinity Stones. And oh my god, we're going to get all these people fighting each other. And he's going to snap. And it's going to wipe out the whole thing. And then we're going to have to come back and figure out another way to undo the snap. I knew where we were going with that. Now, I didn't know that we were going to have a rat brings Ant-Man back and all this other kind of shit that goes along with it. Just like I don't know who Bliss and Cross are going to face over the next couple of months for SummerSlam in particular, or not SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or so-and-so. Especially because there could be injuries, there could be changes to the cards, different things. But we all know where it's leading. It's Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross split up, and Nikki Cross gets her vengeance on Alexa Bliss at the end. Do you really want to sit through that for the next bunch of months? And is that going to be the big storyline that you go, well, it's been a year and a half, and these women's tag titles have been Banks and Bayley do nothing. They never once go to NXT. They never once go to NXT UK. Iconics win the titles and do nothing. Bliss and Cross wait until they split. The end.
No,
Great.
and here's what I'll end it on. I would have rather seen Nia and Tamina not get injured and carry these belts and be a dominant duo and build towards a plucky babyface team than to go every pay-per-view since Mania and these belts do not get featured. You can't sit there and tell me that you care when it's so bluntly obvious that you don't. You know what I mean? You can't sit there and say, well, you don't know where we're going. No, but I've been watching for 6 years. I've literally been watching since out of the womb, and I know a little bit of where you're going, and I know it's not entertaining. And I know that
they would be like, you don't know where we're going. And then you go, well, do you know? Well, no. But
that's the issue, is they don't know where they're going. And I think that they get so wrapped up in this history, and we're making history, and it's women's tag titles, that you didn't even sit down and go, well, we're going to tell the story all about WrestleMania weekend, about how Banks and Bayley's dreamed these titles into existence. Maybe we'll keep it on them. But you thought you had Nikki Bella ready to go, and you already made your decision about the Iconics, so you stuck with it, knowing that you had no back door. That's what it looks like to me. Based on all the information that I know, that's what I feel. And I just think it sucks. And I would rather Nia Jax and Tamina.
It's that whole we'll figure it out thing. And if you don't figure it out, then you go, well, that was a bust, let's move on. Sometimes that's really good for you to just be able to move on and not dwell on past mistakes and not get bogged down in stupid details that are going to halt production of future stories and stuff. But if you do that too much, then you're left with flimsy foundation. And I don't blame them for a situation like giving the Universal Championship to Finn Balor and he gets injured. That's not their fault. But maybe when you give the belt to Brock Lesnar and you know that the way that Brock Lesnar doesn't typically wrestle every single time, maybe when the ratings don't reflect the idea of Lesnar not being there in a month, when we don't have that SummerSlam stuff, let's talk about that then. And then say, well, you didn't learn anything from the past 5 years? That you can't just figure it out? And there's another plug for Zach and Kurt. So it's disappointing. This could be worse. They could have given the women's tag titles to some kind of random pairing that hasn't had any kind of a backbone. At least Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross do have this thing that they've been trying to do, even though it sucks, I think. But they should never been in this position to begin with, because they really should have just known what they were doing with Banks and Bayley. And if they wouldn't have known what they were doing with Banks and Bayley, they should have known what they were doing with the Iconics. Clearly, after 7 months of this, since we've had these titles, they've never bothered. So...
And they won't be bothered again on this Sunday because...
Yep, because that's not going to be on the card.
We're entering like a 4th pay-per-view where the titles do not get featured or defended.
Yeah, guaranteed that's not going to be on the card. So for anybody who's interested and they're thinking, well, maybe the Kabuki Warriors do this, they're not. Don't get your hopes up on that. It's not happening. But we will talk about that on probably Thursday, maybe on Wednesday if we're able to get it done twice at a time. I don't know for sure, because the next things that we're going to be doing are going to be the NXT TakeOver Toronto predictions and then the SummerSlam predictions. And then, of course, on Saturday and Sunday, after the respective pay-per-views, we'll be doing the post-show review, recap, podcasts for both of those.
Boy, is that the depiction of the best of times and the blurst of times, or what?
For what?
Like NXT TakeOver Toronto and then SummerSlam?
I got some positive things to say about SummerSlam, and I got potentially one big negative to say about TakeOver Toronto. We'll see about that. But if you want to be aware of when we post these videos, I mentioned this before, subscribe on YouTube, ring that bell for the notifications to get those email alerts, or you can follow us on smarkoutmoment.com and check out all the other things that are happening on smarkoutmoment.com. Very quickly, we mentioned these before, so just a reminder, merchandise shops, TeePublic and Redbubble. There's the Patreon. Again, remember, if you want us to do the Big Show fan announce table, then that's something. You should be following us on Facebook and Twitter at SmarkOutMoment. You should be checking out fanboysanonymous.com for everything that, if you like me talking about the Avengers and stuff, I would love to do more podcasts and more content about that. So hit up that Patreon, and then maybe I can get more of that stuff happening. And that's my plugs on those kind of things. E-Wrestling News and Bleacher Report are still stuff I put out articles for whatever stuff that's going on in that time. And I've got my own stuff, A Mango Tree and Tony Mango and all that. So just follow me all over the place. Start doing a clickety-click and you will click on a lot of different things that I got going on. But Rob has things as well.
I have so many things. I have WrestleZone Daily every Monday through Thursday at 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. That is where myself and Kevin Kellum of Chicago, we take your questions, we talk about the news of the day. It's basically a daily hot tag edition, and we take your questions. I also have e-wrestling news, where I spend most of my day covering the news and making graphics and overall just covering the wacky world of wrestling. I can announce that on Friday, August 16th, I will be starting with Fightful, and I'm very excited to be joining that team, and I'm looking forward to that very much. So check out Fightful as well. Check out the Ring Report because I have stuff there. Tony has stuff there. Check out Fanboys Anonymous because I donated to the Patreon, and we're gonna do stuff with that because, damn it, my $5 says so. And yeah, that's it for me.
And even though I have no time for it and all that, if you want the All Talk show to come back, that's something that I really want to fucking do. Oh man, this past couple of days with all these things that have been happening, I really wanted to go on these rants about how people are garbage and just do that, but there's not as much time to talk about that stuff when we're talking pro wrestling, especially when there's 1,000 goddamn events to cover, and we will be covering all that stuff when it happens. So thank you for listening to this, and thank you for all your support, and we will see you on the next bunch of things that we see you on, or hear you on. We don't hear you. You hear us. That makes sense. The next things that you hear us on. Thank you for listening, everybody. This has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.